My name's Trevor and I am doing a video series on the basics of audio mixing. In today's episode, we are going to be going over gate and expanders. As always, when we are talking about audio, headphones are recommended so that you can hear all the small changes we are making. So last week we talked about compression, which is lowering the dynamic range of an instrument or an overall mix so that the lows are closer to the high points and the high points are closer to the low points. We're kind of squeezing everything together. When we're talking about gating and expanding, we are doing the opposite of compression. We are expanding the dynamic range. We're trying to make those low points even lower. So on the screen in front of us, you can see all this tiny noise throughout this audio clip. And when we add a gate or an expander, we're eliminating that noise in between those audio clips. So you can see all these little nuances here, which is background noise, air conditioner noise, fan noise, could be anything. On a stage, it could be other instruments, it could be other people. On this instance right here, it's me talking. So we're eliminating all the noise in between me talking. So we're expanding that dynamic range by making these quiet points even quieter by pretty much fully eliminating them. Okay, so now we're going to pull up a gate plugin and we are going to go through the basic parameters of a gate. So we have our on and off right here, and we have our open threshold. Anything underneath the threshold will be reduced. Anything above the threshold will come through. We have our attack time, how fast after your audio signal passes the threshold does the gate open up, and then our release time, how fast after your audio signal goes underneath the threshold does it close down. We also have a special hold, which is a number that you can set in milliseconds of how long the gate is going to hold open before it starts to release once the audio goes back under to make a more natural sound. And then we have our floor. The floor is how many dBs are you decreasing the signal that is underneath the threshold. So you have all the way down to infinity to zero. Zero, you're not affecting the signal whatsoever. Infinity, it's basically an on-off switch at that point. But you can set it to different levels so that you still get reduction in the background, but it's not as noticeable and drastic. So we'll start drastic and we'll go from there. Audio source with no gate.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
You can hear all that background noise, all that fuzz in the background. If we go ahead and activate our gate, I'm going to bring this up just a little bit more. We'll see how this goes.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
So you can hear what that gate's doing. Probably a little too drastic. Maybe we'll try increasing our hold a little bit.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
Now we really weren't
Check
gating.
1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
So that's probably the closest we're going to get on this one right now. Another option we have is expansion. So expansion is gating. It's just not as drastic. You have a lot slower of a shelf here than with a gate. So same thing with the expander.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
Let's bring up that floor.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
Again, without it.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
And with it.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
So that is a basic gate. We're gonna go through two other plugins. One is an expander and one is a noise suppressor, and we can see how they sound different. First here we have PSE, which is a primary source expander. We'll go ahead and see how this guy sounds.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
So that sounds pretty good. You have a release adjustment, threshold, and your range. Your attack time is automatic. This is an expander, just like this guy in expansion mode. So a way to look at it would be our threshold is 22, minus 22. So our threshold is like all the way up here. And then our range is only minus 22. Your expander looks like this right here.
Check 1, 2.
Without it?
Mic check 1, 2.
With it?
Check 1, 2. Mic.
So this one, very basic, very easy to use. You know, you only have a couple different things that you can change and get a good expander really fast. And now we're going to bring over NS1, which is a noise suppressor. And we can hear what this guy's doing.
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
And without it?
Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
With it?
Check 1, 2. Mic check
You open it up.
1, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic.
So this guy gets rid of a lot of that background noise very well. It's one fader. It's super easy to use. 0 is you're not affecting the signal at all. 100 is the maximum that you can be affecting the signal. So you just fade it up until it sounds good and you set it and forget it. So now we're going to dive into some live soundboards and see how you can implement gates in your mix today. So here we have an X32 and we're in the gate section and we have an on-off button. We have a couple different expanders. We have our gate. We have our threshold, our range, our attack time, our hold time, and our release time. Pretty similar to the EMO D5. And on the Avantis, we have an in and out, on and off. We have our threshold. We have our depth or our range. We have our attack time, our hold time, and our release time. So again, pretty much like the EMO D5. So if we go to library and we go to source expander, it almost looks just like the PSE, the primary source expander, where you have your threshold, your depth or your range, and then a fast, medium, and slow. So that's very neat. Stick with Allen and Heath and move over to the SQ series. And again, we have our gate, in and out, threshold, our depth or our range, attack, hold, release. Pretty standard gate. Does not look like it has an expander selector like the X32 and the EMO D5 had. Okay, and now we're on the Yamaha DM7. We have our gate, we have our threshold, our range, right there, attack, hold, decay, or release. We do have a gate type, so we do have an expander, and you can see that expander compared to the gate. Yamaha DM7. And as always, last but not least, Emotion LV1 by Waves, where you can run all of the gates that we just went over right inside the console, ready to go. You can also run all these plugins using Super Rack alongside any of the consoles we just mentioned. Thank you so much for watching this basic video on how gates and expanders work. As always, all the plugins we used are linked down in the description below. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on more audio mixing videos.